Every game should be coming out on the most successful gaming platform. This isn't like rocket science. This isn't all that complicated. All we're seeing now is a lot of bluster, a lot of nonsense, a lot of like weird claims from developers who are paid off by Sony in order to support other platforms, but not Nintendo, into not supporting Nintendo Switch. That's what we're seeing here.
You are either lying or you're stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid.
Hey everyone, Road Breach here, and today I figured we should check in on the infamous Nintendo extremist, Harmen Smith. I figured I could take my time on making videos about him, but holy shit, this guy shits out videos faster than you can say ah! I had the idea to cover his video on Hi-Fi Rush, but I think I'm gonna just forget about doing that and cover a more broad topic. In particular, his video titled Xbox, PlayStation, and PC are overpowered pieces of hardware. Nintendo Switch dominates them all. Right off the bat, that title is a contradiction considering the only thing the Switch has over any other platform is its sales figures, with 111 million units sold. All those systems are extremely more powerful than the Switch. And overpowered? Let's save that one for later. Without further ado, let's do this.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Friend, the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Game developers are wasting their time developing titles for Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and the PC. They should be focusing all their time and effort in maximizing their support for Nintendo Switch consoles.
22 seconds in, and we have an absolutely nuclear take from Harmen here. Game developers are apparently wasting their time developing games for everything that isn't designed by Nintendo. First of all, most game engines nowadays aren't made with Nintendo Switch limitations in mind. Have you seen some of the stuff that the Unreal 5 engine is capable of? The Switch would fucking explode if they tried to run that shit natively unmodified. People don't want a worse running version of their favorite games because it's all they have. I can't tell you how much I don't want a port of Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch, because playing a beautiful game like that at 28 FPS and having an aneurysm when too many things happen on screen sounds fucking miserable. I speak from experience because I have Cars 3, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and Cuphead on Switch. Secondly, cloud versions may look good, but that's just because said version has to be streamed from a server miles away from your console, which results in frame drops and input lag. Imagine having to play a fast-paced action game like Doom Eternal, but half the time the game misses inputs. I played the cloud version of Control on Nintendo Switch, and the sound would cut out, and the game would frequently not register my button inputs. All those systems you said it's a waste of time to develop for make it so developers don't have to sacrifice as much to have a good-looking game run well. If anything, it's more of a waste of time to develop for Nintendo Switch if the ports are objectively the worst version you can play.
Every game should be coming out on the most successful gaming platform. This isn't like rocket science. This isn't all that complicated.
The PlayStation 1 was popular at the time, but the PS1 version of Rainbow Six was probably the worst version of that game besides the GBC version, which isn't even close to what the PC version is like. Just because the Switch is popular doesn't mean porting games to it is a good idea, just because. Because you wind up with objectively worse experiences unless said game isn't that taxing for the Switch, which isn't going to be every game because some companies have the money and resources to blow on the visuals.
All we're seeing now is a lot of bluster, a lot of nonsense, a lot of like weird claims from developers who are paid off by Sony in order to support other platforms, but not Nintendo, into not supporting Nintendo Switch.
How the hell do you even know that? Maybe developers just don't want their games to look and run worse for native Switch ports and want their players to be able to play a single-player game without internet or lag that shouldn't exist when you're playing alone.
That's what we're seeing here. Let's be real here. This has been happening since the 90s. It's been like a very prevalent problem, but now it's becoming more and more obvious.
Harmen, if you're incapable of providing evidence, then I don't want to hear any more of your conspiracy theories. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and if you can't give me that, then I have no reason to believe you when you make claims like that.
Because the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X have absolutely nothing to offer to gamers whatsoever. The big new game of this generation, Hogwarts Legacy, is also coming to Switch, right?
I guess reasonably powered hardware for the current generation isn't anything gamers actually want. No, but seriously, YouTubers like MSwizzle make plenty of shorts about Nintendo and harps on the Switch for its shortcomings like the power and the Joy-Con drift. Regardless of how much you try to downplay those problems, they still exist, because I own a Switch myself and have found that several people want Nintendo to make a more powerful console. I mean, for fuck's sake, the damn eShop runs slow too.
You have games that are available on every platform. You have games that really should be available on Switch. There is no justification for Resident Evil 4 Remake or Elden Ring or Returnal or any of these other multi-platform games to not be available on Nintendo Switch.
I think the fact that gamers want to be immersed in the game's world without horrible performance or input lag is a pretty good justification for not wanting to port games to the Switch. And just because the game is available on every platform doesn't make every version worth playing. Even if Battlefield 2042 was a good game, the PS4 and Xbox One versions of it are the worst versions of that game, bar none.
And in essence, if a developer really wants to produce high-quality, unique, interesting stuff at an affordable price, right? If they want to stay within their budget, if they don't want to blow $100 million on Forspoken, they should be developing for the Nintendo Switch, which is a much more reasonably priced, reasonably powered console. And that is the thing about this console generation. That is the thing about the PC, is that these platforms are indeed overpowered. They are overpriced. No developer can afford to properly support these consoles with develop games that can really max out their capabilities.
Motherfucker, what do you mean reasonably powered? The Switch can barely handle the damn eShop, let alone most third-party AAA games ported to it. Not to mention that Forspoken isn't really the most expensive game ever made, when you consider that games like Cyberpunk 2077 exist, which is far more expensive than Forspoken. The only thing that we should be calling overpowered when it comes to gaming is whatever the new meta is in Call of Duty. Side note, last I checked, shotguns were useless in Warzone. I might as well call it Call of Duty instead, because I may as well be playing the trumpet at my enemies instead of using the damn shotgun.
So instead, they shouldn't even try. If they want to make good, compelling video games, they should be focusing on making good, compelling video games, not on supporting useless pieces of hardware that really have no business existing to begin with, right? PS5 and Xbox Series X should not be supported, okay? They shouldn't even be available for sale, honestly. And the only way that's ever going to happen is if we simply refuse to support them, don't pay their subscription fees, don't buy their games, don't buy their platforms, and instead focus all of our time, our energy, and our passion into playing Nintendo exclusives. I can tell you that I've had more fun playing Nintendo Switch Sports than I would have playing Elden Ring, right?
They shouldn't even be available for sale. By that logic, we shouldn't even have the Nintendo Switch since it's more powerful than Nintendo's older consoles. Yeah, no. I'd sooner go back to making unscripted videos than ever agree with a stupid statement like that. I don't want to play games that are not within the Switch's capabilities on Switch. The PS5, Series X, and PC do deserve to be available for sale and can run games far better than the Switch. I also love how you said that you had more fun playing Nintendo Switch Sports over Elden Ring when those games are not in any way comparable. I'd probably have more fun playing the former myself, but that comparison is stupid because those games are not comparable.
It's more challenging, it's more complex, there's more to do in the game, there's more technical depth, there's more variety in the gameplay. Nintendo Switch Sports just dominates Elden Ring, and I feel like very few people will want to admit that because they want to continue deluding themselves into thinking that Elden Ring is somehow cutting edge or the best game on the market when really it's not even close. There are better action RPGs. There are better open world games. There are better games, period, on Nintendo Switch, and yet we're still in this delusional period where nobody wants to admit it.
Okay, bullshit. Elden Ring is far more challenging than the Switch version of Wii Sports. You cannot sit there and tell me that Elden Ring is less challenging than a game that was meant to appeal to a wider audience than the Soulsborne fans. That's not an attack against the fan base, by the way, I'm just saying. I don't need to play Switch Sports to know that's bullshit. And Nintendo Switch Sports sure as hell hasn't dominated Elden Ring in sales. As for everything else you said about Elden Ring,
maybe you just don't enjoy this thing and you should get over it. I can live with the knowledge that tampon advertisements don't target me. They don't sell me on tampons. I feel left out of the tampon industry. And that's an industry I really want to get into because I'm such a pussy. And I want every single thing on the planet to revolve around me.
People really are trying to justify their $4,000 PCs, their overpriced consoles, the fact that we have a new console generation to begin with, when none of that was really necessary. What people should have done is just demand better games on the consoles they already own. Like, the PS4 was dead in the water, and so they had to pump out the PS5, which is also floundering. Like, just let the brand die and just support Nintendo going forward. Like, it's not all that complicated, but we're seeing, like, companies just fall over backwards trying to defend Sony. You have, like, Square Enix releasing statements saying that, like, Final Fantasy 16 couldn't possibly run on a gaming PC, which is like ridiculous. We designed this for exclusively for the PS5. Like that's a load of crap, and everybody knows it.
I've been told several times that you don't need to spend $1,000 on a gaming PC. You could just get one for $1,000 along with a monitor. That's what my mom spent on mine. Yes, my mom got this for me. Shut the fuck up. If you're talking about scalpers when discussing overpricing for consoles, then I would definitely agree, but many of the results on Bing have a perfectly reasonable price for the hardware. Spending a little more on more powerful platforms that run graphically demanding games better than the Switch is perfectly reasonable if you ask me. If a new console generation wasn't necessary, then why the hell is the Switch a thing then? You want to explain that to me, Harmen? And holy shit, Castle, can you repeat that last thing he said?
Certainly.
It's not all that complicated, but we're seeing, like, companies just fall over backwards trying to defend Sony. You have, like, Square Enix releasing statements saying that, like, Final Fantasy 16 couldn't possibly run on a gaming PC, which is like ridiculous. We designed this for exclusively for the PS5. Like that's a load of crap, and everybody knows it.
Well, damn, he kind of sounds like a PC elitist saying something like that. But I just know that he wouldn't keep that same energy for Nintendo games running on PC.
Like you have developers just crying about blowing $100 million on like Forspoken. You have the games as a service becoming more being pushed. You have like these people developing NFTs, right? Square Enix legit fired their CEO and put forward the guy who was pushing for NFTs at the forefront of their company. And yet all anybody wants to talk about is this alleged idea that Pokemon is going to start contributing to NFTs to begin with. I don't see a lot of people focusing on the Square Enix side of things, but I see people trying to make stuff up about Pokemon. So, interesting double standard there.
What the fuck are you talking about? Plenty of people on YouTube have discussed this retarded decision on Square's part, and Pokemon is actually headed in this stupid direction too. Luckily, Nintendo isn't endorsing them, so good luck trying to make that work, you fucking crypto morons.
Again, all this comes down to is Nintendo bad and everything else good. You're not allowed to be a Nintendo fanboy.
You're very much allowed to be a Nintendo fan, but don't be surprised when we criticize your stupid takes.
You're not allowed to talk about how Nintendo is superior to other consoles.
You can think that all you want, but it doesn't make the sentiment true.
But if you like gaming PC, you're the part of the master race. If you're a Sony fan, you have the most successful TV show of all time. The best video game adaptation ever in The Last of Us HBO. If you're an Xbox fan, you're going to own every single game company on the planet. And you have Xbox Game Pass, which is the most successful gaming streaming service in the world, which isn't true, by the way. Nintendo Switch Online is more popular. Why exactly are we here?
Maybe it could be that a good chunk of that is based around the fact that a lot of it is objectively true. The Switch is less powerful than fucking mobile phones. When and if Nintendo makes a Splatoon TV series and it's really good, then maybe The Last of Us on HBO will get curb stomped by it. As for Game Pass is one hell of a deal if you ask me. And besides, you can play games that aren't just ports of 30 to 20-year-old games that I could play for free via emulation that works better than what Nintendo offers in some cases. Not only does Nintendo not offer as much when it comes to offering games to play for a small fee, but you better pray to Primus that everyone has good internet, otherwise you're fucked. I also find it incredibly ironic that this is coming from you of all people, the same guy that poisons the well on games that aren't made by Nintendo, the same man that downplays real problems people have with the Nintendo Switch, like the bad performance, Joy-Con drift, and terrible N64 expansion emulation, and made a god-awful Tenacious D parody.
How exactly did we get to this point? It really does feel like the vast majority of gaming YouTubers, of critics, of journalists, of analysts, they're just downplaying the very real fact that Switch is the most popular platform by far for actually playing games they just don't want to admit it. They just do not want to admit that Nintendo has won the console war, and everything we're seeing now from like these clickbaiters, from these shills, from these influencers is just like trying to keep the farce going for just a little bit longer to continue getting those clicks, to continue getting those super chats, to get those donations, those Patreon contributors, to just continue pretending that like someday the Dreamcast 2 is going to come back and just destroy everything.
The Switch does play games, but holy shit does it charge too much for some of them. Splatoon 3 should not be $60 for how many assets it reuses from Splatoon 2 and the Octo expansion DLC. The campaign literally reuses levels from the Octo expansion DLC. At this point, I'm willing to put money down on the new weapons and specials from Splatoon 3 just being cut content from Splatoon 2. I also wouldn't really qualify streaming games via the cloud as actually playing games, because most consoles do that shit natively without needing to sacrifice performance or fidelity. I know I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but that's mainly because Harmen can't go without mountains of permutations in his fucking videos.
Like, that maybe we'll get a good game on Xbox, maybe if we keep supporting them.
You mean like Hi-Fi Rush and Halo Infinite?
Like, why does anyone care? Why does anyone support any of these platforms?
Maybe because they're powerful enough to run most games without needing to make any sacrifices to run them? Why the hell else do you think Switch ports of games often come late to the party? Maybe because developers need to work extra hard to make them barely crack 30 FPS at the best of times. And that's before you get into the games that people actually want to play on these platforms. Like, I don't know, Rift Apart. And yes, that game does have frame drops, but I shudder to think of how this game would be running on Nintendo Switch if, for some reason, they decided to port it over to that console.
PlayStation and Xbox will never be relevant. They never were relevant. They could never compete with Nintendo consoles, and I'm kind of sick of pretending they ever could.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro.
And PC gaming is so delusional. Like, you guys think that like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, like these are all like viable PC exclusives, which isn't even true, but
where in the Kentucky Fried Fuck did you hear an argument like that? If you can't be bothered to do the simple act of getting a screenshot of the moron making that argument and put it in the video, then I'm not going to take your word for it out of basic principle of sounding like it came from your ass.
Like, the fact that you use your PC to, like, look at naked women on the internet, or, like, you consider we're talking about PC gamers, people like, oh no, it's Alex, like, probably male women, I suppose, femboys, whatever they call them. What do they call them? Traps? Like, I don't exactly know, but, like, considering that you can only find that on PC reliably, that's your favorite exclusive. That's what you're into. That's what gets you excited. That's what gets you passionate. Me, the actual gamer, I'm playing Nintendo Switch Sports. I'm playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I'm playing Metroid Fusion, Mario and Luigi, Wario Land 3. I am looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom. I'm playing Cereza. I'm playing Fatal Frame 4. Like, I'm playing all these great Nintendo games that just most people are desperately trying to downplay.
You sound like a member of the dog army with that first half. Oh, you look at porn, you're a fucking loser if you jerk off to NSFW content. You can't have sexual feelings. Fuck off, you goddamn cocksucker. The Wii U also has that feature, you dumbass. You can look up porn on the Wii U, and if you find out how, you can also look up porn on the Nintendo Switch as well. And by the sounds of it, it seems you're implying that it's a bad thing to be attracted to men, considering you literally said this shit.
I'm a homophobic, racist, like it's a bad thing to be any of those things.
I feel pretty confident in thinking that.
Enough is enough, right? If you're not playing exclusively on Nintendo hardware, you are not a fan of video games. If you're talking about The Last of Us HBO, you're not a gamer. If you talk about like Xbox Game Pass, a bunch of these old games that you can easily acquire and other used through a variety of different means, you're not a gamer. If you care about like Xbox or PlayStation at all, you're not a gamer. Like, if you downplay some of the very best games in the entire industry, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Metroid, like, you are not a gamer.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you don't have a narrow view of gaming and want to play games that look better than the 360 and PS3, you don't actually like video games. Never mind how much you spent on games and equipment, never mind how much time you spent playing games or how much you enjoy the hobby as a whole.
That is what we're seeing here, is that a bunch of people who are trying to push agendas to try to establish some kind of niche community in there online about hating Nintendo. We can't allow this to continue. You are not gamers.
Considering you're the one saying that every other platform is overpowered and saying that we're not gamers because we have much broader tastes in games, the only one pushing a fucking agenda is you. Thank God that's the end of this shitty ass video. Overall, this video was a Nintendo extremist dictating what platforms people should play on or support. My advice, don't listen to him. Play on whatever platform you want to, and just have fun. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.